It is a bright afternoon and you are watching Smart 24 Business Television. And welcome to this episode of Smart Trade with me, Julious Nsubuga, right here on Smart 24, every Monday to Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. And well, the business environment, as I usually say, is one that is filled with a lot of complexities and so many challenges. And right here on Smart 24, we give you the best business solutions for your complex business situations. Let's just begin with a look at the market, and well, let's have a look at the food market right now. And when you pass by Kansanga market and Gaba market, at Kansanga, beans are buying at you can buy them a kg at 2,500, and same with Gaba market at 2,500, and peas at Kansanga 3,000 shillings a kilo, and at Gaba market still it is 4,000 shillings, a difference of 1,000. And well, looking at a tray of eggs at Kansanga, you can get it at 9,000, and then at Gaba same price, 9,000 shillings. And then when you pass by Kansanga market, still you can get chicken at 15,000, and same price, 15,000 at Gaba market. And then when you pass by Kansanga, still you can get at 15,000 nail patch, and at the same price, a difference of 1,000, 16,000 for nail patch fish at Gaba market. And perhaps when you pass by Wandega, you can get a bunch of matoke at 20,000, and same at Kalere market, 20,000. And Irish Ndebe yobumonde egula ojigula kulukumu bitano ate Kalere 17. Well, rice is at 2,800 a kilogram. That is at Wandega, same price at Kalere market. And then posho 1,800 for a kilo at Wandega, and then same price at Kalere market. Looking at sugar is selling for 4,300, same price for both Wandega and Kalere market. And so looking at perhaps looking at the beans and the peas and eggs and all that, ojja kubigula Wandega 2,500 era Kalere 2,300. Kati ojja kuba ogula kawo Wandega 1,350 ate Kalere 1,300. Tray y'amagi Wandega ejja kugula 1,000 ate Kalere 935. Ate enkoko ejja kuba egula gumu 3 Wandega ate ojja kugisanga ku gumu 2 Kalere. Then nail patch ojja kumusanga oba kyekyennya ekya nail patch Wandega ojja kusanga ku gumu 7, ate Kalere ojja kusanga ku gumu 7.5. Wow, let's now have a look into the oil and gas market, and right here at Total, Shell, Cobil, and City Oil and Petro City. I know you passed by one of these to perhaps fuel your car or something like that. And then petrol at Total goes for 4,293, and then diesel for 4,004, and that is for diesel at Total. And then at Shell, when you happen to pass by Shell, you will get petrol at 4,320 and 4,010 for diesel. Well, Cobil will go for 9,950 at Cobil for petrol, and then for diesel it will go for 3,700. And then City Oil, if you happen to pass by City Oil, you will get petrol at 4,210, while diesel at 3,820. And then Petro City, petrol will go for 4,000, that's a liter, and then diesel will go for 3,800. And well, that's just a glimpse of what's happening in the market. Era bwangu chiddako mu bino ojja kusanga amatoke ku gumu 8.5, era enakasero ojja kusanga amatoke ku gumu 8.5, ate mu bino ojja kusanga enkota y'ettooke ku 2,000. Ate bingi nnyo by'oyinza okubanga ofuna mu butale buno. So basically, right about now, well, it's a very, very wonderful afternoon right here in Kalere Market. Business is moving on and business is booming. People are busy. And well, today we want to look at a very, very interesting subject, and that is business built to last. Well, have you ever had or have you seen companies or businesses that have lasted so many years, so many decades and centuries, and these businesses having gone through multiple product life cycles and also having had multiple generation of leaders? Well, I know you've heard of such companies that have stood the test of time. And today, well, we're going to look at how you can build a business to last. Building a business to last that can outlive you, whether you go for a holiday or perhaps even if you happen to go and you live with the Lord, still that business can go on. So basically today we're looking at business built to last. Oyinza otya okuzimba business enabeerawo akaseera akawanvu ennyo n'ebeerawo nga bw'obanga ogenzeko mu holiday ng'ekyakola ate nga weeri ate ne obanga ovuddewo mu bulamu bw'ensi eno bizinesi eyo nebanga ekyagenda mu maaso okikola otya ekintu ekyo. Business built to last. And right here with us is a business writer and most importantly a very good entrepreneur and also a very good friend of mine, and we are going to be talking about how you can build a business to last, a business that will outlive you. And you are most welcome, Mugumya Paul. Thank you for coming to the show.
I'm more than humbled to be here.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay. Yeah, perhaps we can have a brief introduction of who you are, of who is Paul.
Maybe for those listening for the very first time, my name is Mugumya Paul. I was born and raised here in central Uganda. Luwero district is my home.
Okay.
Actually, most of the time I call myself a cowboy because we actually grew up with cows. You know, the best skills we acquired in those early days was to milk cows, to take cows for grazing,
okay,
to care for calves, you know, about cows. And you know, growing up, we were lucky that by then the government was starting to pay for primary education freely. And we got a chance that we managed to go to primary school and started in primary school. Okay. So started in primary school, finished, looked for another government school so that I can afford to be in high school, and then we started in there. Our parents tried all the time to keep us in school without resources, okay, you know, especially from a family which is big like mine, you know. Okay. So in the process, I began to realize something, that I dropped an urge for being successful. Okay. I just didn't know what success means or what, but I knew it meant something like being extraordinary from other people. And I was like, hey, if there is anything I can do to succeed, I will actually get to do it. Okay. So in the process, I was in high school, I remember, about to finish my high school, senior 6. Okay. And it came so clear from my parents that there was no way I could afford to get money to continue with my high school education. What happened? I began to feel that, hey, I'm gonna be cut out of this education system. I may hardly get a chance to get a degree in school. Okay. So for that reason, I began to think much of what else can I do so that I become maybe a success. If at all, maybe I don't get a chance to be in high school, or actually in university, and maybe get a degree and maybe get a nice job as I actually had planned. Okay. And during the following times when I was just about to finish high school, I actually made a mistake. I chose to move out and drop out a bit, you know. Okay. And I go on the street to start looking for what I can do to live. And I stumbled on many things. I tried to get a job, which I didn't. Then later I tried again to get a job, and I got a small job working as a casual laborer in some factory here in Kampala. But then I had shifted to Kampala. I had left the village, and I was looking for greener pastures, that's what you call it. Okay. So in the process, I was like, hey, what should I do to succeed? Now I got a job. It was paying me very little money to survive on. I think it should be something like around maybe 200,000 Uganda shillings in this money. So that was about 12 years ago. And I worked on the job. with one major goal. Now, what made me to think deeper when I came to Kampala was the job I got.
Okay.
The job I got, the factory where I was working, it was owned by a certain guy, and this guy happened to be employing some Indians. Indians were working for him, and the Indians were the managers of the business. But people could tell us in the factory that, hey, so and so owns the factory, it is his. And then you hear things like, he never went to school. Now that's the owner of the school. So according to me, as a cowboy, I was like, this is good news. The owner of the company has never been to school and no blah, blah. So I was like, hey, I'm going to do everything it takes. If he succeeded, I will succeed maybe. So I began feeling like it was a motivation for like, hey, he never went to school, he has the factory, employs Indians. I decided to think deeper on what it takes to be in the business. That's when I began to think that maybe the best place to be is business. Because it was the place where I had seen that people become successful, they become very powerful, they travel the world, they do a lot of better things when they actually were not favored in any way. According to me, I was like, this ground is flat. You know, if people who never went to school can come in and become number one and become something fabulous. So my boss, the owner of the factory actually, in the local industrial area, was my number one motivator when people talked about him when we were working in the factory. And even when it came to work ethics, I was like, hey, I had seen these Indians who are working for him getting into various businesses. And I began to realize that actually, if the dream I had as a cowboy to become successful, this time I began defining success maybe as having a lot of money.
What do you mean by cowboy?
Well, according to me, a cowboy is simply I'm a person who grew up with cows, according to my simple interpretation. Okay. So as we grew up with cows, I was like, hey, this makes sense. So if I should summarize everything, that's how I end up in the business. So over the next couple of years, because I finally left that job, and I got on the street selling second-hand shoes. That was my first business. I was selling shoes on the street in Chengera Masaka Road there. Okay. And we kicked off business, slowly by slowly, and I started various things. By the time I think I was about age 25, because by the time I got a job, I was about age 20. So I was about 25, about 5 years later. I had counted around 13 different businesses, which I had started. And the bad news of it all of them had collapsed. And I was bankrupt. So in the process, I learned a lot of things, and I decided that, hey, I have made my mistakes. I think I need to come back. I need to really come back and do things again. You know, it was a tough journey. I think we shall talk about that over the course. So that's how I began to write my name into the business world. You know, and I should say for the past 12 years, I have been active in business daily. On a daily basis, I've been running a business, and I've tried all my energy and mind and coping I can to make sure that at every point I'm in the business. Okay. And over the time, a lot of experiences have come over me. Okay. And the good, years. The bad, and the worst. You know, exactly.
Very wonderful. So basically, I think you were in the country at the time of the Africa Now Summit. Well, basically, what was your major lesson in that? What was a major lesson as an entrepreneur?
I think not just an entrepreneur. You see, life, I think, is created by entrepreneurs, according to my thinking. Okay.
What about science?
Look at this. Politicians create a good environment for us. The doctors end up working on a good life for that you can. But when it comes to people who even bring all these systems to work for us, they're always entrepreneurs. And I think that everybody was supposed to follow deeply. Because you see, it is those ideas and the policies which are created in such a summit are the ones that end up impacting our entire life. So in my thing, I would say, hey, out there, everybody has to pay attention. Because if you're really gonna talk about the prosperity of Uganda as a country, or Africa as the exact thing which you have to be thinking about deeply is how exactly we are going to use the problems we see, and then we turn them into opportunities of building something which has not been existing. I was listening to our president speaking a lot of things about the economy, and I was like, hey, what he talks about, I think, is important. And one thing he talked about entrepreneurs was like, he challenged business people like us, I remember. He said something like, it is you business people who have to create pressure for Africa to get united. I know there is so much they talked about uniting Africa.
Yes, yes.
They talked about out of issues, including capital and everything. But I like the part of uniting Africa. And our President Museveni, was serious on this. He was like, hey, business people should create the pressure. Because when a politician goes to talk to another politician in another country about the integration of Africa, they may think that maybe the president or whatever is just interested in having Africa together, so that maybe it can be united politically, maybe they have one president or whichever. But if it is the business people of let's say, DRC, Congo, and the business people of Uganda are the ones who want to make sure that the market is united, because we do so much production of our chicken or eggs or anything, and we want marketing in DRC, right? We end up creating the pressure. And naturally, we may never even end up needing the political integration. All we need is economic integration. Okay. And I was paying so much attention. I'm like, hey, what does this mean to us? Because of course, as a business people, you can tell that nothing is important to us like an economic integration of having a bigger market.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, very, very wonderful. Well, our dear viewers, let's first go for a short commercial break. We're going to be right back. From that break, and you are watching Smart Trade right here on Smart 24. Smart Trade comes to you Monday to Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. with me, Julious Nsubuga. And today we are looking at business built to last. How can you build a business that will outlive you? And even when you go for a holiday, you can still find that business functioning very, very well. And there is something that Vusi Thembekwayo, who is a South African born but an international business speaker, as he was saying, you know, you should aim to be the best and not the biggest. Well, let's have a look at what he has to say.
Was an interesting one, and it's simply this: aim to be the best, not the biggest. So I trained in finance as a financier. I work in private equity today. I know the importance of building a strong balance sheet, but I also know that balance sheet, accounting, finance, at best, all of those numbers tell you what's been. They don't tell you what's coming. Finance, isn't it interesting, is a retrospective science. You're always looking back. In fact, there is only one study that is prospective and is perspective. It looks forward, and that's actuaries. The rest of us, numbers people, are always looking back. So the guys at Discovery speak about this idea of being the best at what you do, not the biggest. That all you need to do is to be the best at something. So think about it. Nokia created the QWERTY keyboard, and because they created the QWERTY keyboard, they were the best mobile telephony business. So we all bought Nokias, not because we cared what the price of a Nokia was, or we cared what the share price was, or what their market capitalization was, or what their growth strategy was. We cared simply that Nokia answered a question that was important to us as consumers. They were the best. So what happens to Nokia? They stop innovating. They leave room for innovation. Who walks in? BlackBerry. BlackBerry walks in and says, hold on, we're going to give you the same QWERTY keyboard and ours is going to look just a bit better. And not only that, we're going to overlay it with a communication platform that allows you to communicate freely as long as you have data. This was an important thing because around this time, executives were becoming increasingly mobile. They were traveling through territories and they needed something that enables them to communicate no matter where in the world they are. So they built BBM. And what did we do? We dumped the Nokia and we bought the Blackberries in their droves. BlackBerry grew, their share price grew, market cap grew, revenues grew. Again, they fall into the same mistake. They stop innovating. If you stop innovating, you will always have new entrances into your market. And those new entrances may be old players who've reimagined their business, but there will always be something new. So who walks in? Apple. Apple walks in and reimagines that game. And today, Apple is the world's most valuable company. There is, of course, a tiff between who's the best right now, Apple or Samsung. My money is on Samsung, but I have my own reasons. I think the Android platform is much stronger and far more ubiquitous, a platform with a far lower entry point from a price perspective that will in time outpace Apple. But that's just my personal thinking. So the idea here is that is to aim to be the best in what you do, not the biggest. Size will come. Size always comes. So people lied to us when they said it's size that matters. It isn't. It's simply being the best.
That was Vusi Thembekwayo, who is an international business speaker born of South Africa. And his point was, aim to be the best and not the biggest. Katinga wagambye ntino Nokia yali mukatale imyaka nga 10 imabega. Nokia yali yamanyi na Nokia uchajirabako. So basically, right now, I found this youthful Paul when I was when I came across that. Well, aim to be the biggest. Aim to be the best and not the biggest. What do you have to say about that?
I think, you know, one of the challenges we do have is that people love competing with others. You know, I love competing against you. And actually, it is a human nature of men, mainly, that we want to be seen on top of somebody else. We work so hard to be sure that we are on top of somebody. And because of that, we migrate with the same type of mindset when we're going actually into business. And I think if I can trace back my personal journey, all the time I have had troubles in failure in business. I can relate it to wanting to compete with somebody. Actually, in my language on the street, I call it photocopying and not copying somebody. Many times, I mean, we love photocopying what somebody does, and then we do when they are measuring Julius' performance, we want to be measured above him, right? And so what we do is that we go ahead and we try to create a competition. Not a competition probably to make sure maybe we are the best or number one, what we do, but a competition to be above somebody. And if I can go back, I mean, most times on the street, I see it all the time. My friends and you know, somebody will be like, for example, at one point, my business was expanding. So when the business was expanding, it came to a point and I got some financial problems in the business. So there is a part of the business I sold off. So when I sold off part of the business, news came out that, hey, he sold off this and that. And the following day, I remember I went to some store. And before I got there, the news had got there that I had sold. And some people were like, yeah, he thought he's going this way. He thought he's becoming big, and now he had to be seen is down. But when I was reflecting on this, I realized something. I made a decision to sell some part of the business because I had grown up so fast and I was actually making some losses. But before I sold it off, everybody thought, the guy is growing, the guy is big, he's bigger. When I came down, some people felt a relief that, hey, now they have surpassed me because I have done what? Gone down. And now, what they were of course realizing is that it was a strategy I was paying for. I was trying to create a strategy where I would take off what is not profitable for me so that I can make what I have stronger and also make it profitable and value, and also add value. You realize that? And now, it took me, for sure, for the first couple of days, I wasn't comfortable with the news I was getting also. to a point that I wished that I could go and maybe get money again and immediately and then pump it, and so that they can prove and see that I'm not doing what? Going down. You realize that? And it's no, according to me, it's a trap.
Okay.
A very big trap. So, as Vusi was talking about being the biggest, the best, not the biggest.
Yeah.
Many times the trap is that we think of ways of how we are going to be
big.
Big, not necessarily being
the best.
And yet, what keeps us in the market for long is when the people we serve, who are, because our bosses are customers, we've got to have our customers, the bosses, thinking that we are number one in everything we do. When they look at the service I offer, like personally, I offer logistics services. We do the river, we do transport of people and everything. Each time a group of people in my circle thinks of having a logistics challenge or an excursion of somewhere, going somewhere, my goal would be they should be thinking about me to serve them because they believe that they're gonna get the best. And for that reason, I'm likely to stay in business forever, right?
Okay.
But when the other blood kicks in of, hey, I'm not talking about, and you know, I think about it, I'm like, we are crazy. We are very crazy. So it's such a powerful point to note because, like you initially, when I came in, you told us that we talk about like building things to last.
Yeah.
Maybe you would have made a topic like building things that are so big, but never did that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You called it building it to last.
Yeah.
Meaning that you sat and saw a big point in building something that's going to last versus something that is merely the biggest.
Yeah.
Because out of times, I mean, we've seen companies, I won't have to mention any, that have come in, I mean, they took over us by surprise.
2 decades later, they're out.
2 decades?
Or
No,
even
come
1
on,
decade.
I'm like 2 years. Some of
years.
them don't celebrate even the first year. And
Okay.
they came in and everybody was talking about them, you know. And then, and you know, it's a pity, especially for Africa. Yeah, when you look at most African businesses, of course, and the challenge, it is very rare to find an African business that has been around before 1950.
Before 1950.
Before 1950, which is about coming to 70 years ago.
Of course, we have just, a few. We have just a few of them.
And this is the most challenge. When you look at, I pay attention personally on economies that have been so strong for a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know? And especially the United States of American economy, the American economy. I pay attention to American economy. You're going to realize that some of the most efficient businesses, not the biggest, the efficient businesses, have been around for hundreds of years, 100, 200, 300 years. And these businesses have literally, have never been on the list of being the biggest, even by revenue. And when you go back, when they talk about probably companies like Coca-Cola, those American companies, you know, you hear the JP Morgan banks or the Rothschild family and all their investments into school, you know, the universities like the Stanford universities, you know, all those businesses, they have stood the test of time of centuries. Yeah. And now when you go back on a scale they are being measured on a scale of being the best at what they offer. You know, you hear a university like Stanford. I mean, that has been some of the most prestigious and best university for centuries, right? Yeah. When it comes to maybe, you know, many of them being motor manufacturing companies and whichever, they have been in the track for hundreds of years, right? Yeah. Now, when we go back in time, most of these businesses at one point, they have never even been on a list of the biggest. And that's also a huge challenge. I don't mean that probably the biggest have not been the best. Yeah. No. But in most cases, it would be best maybe, in my own sense, we put a focus on building something the best. If by any chance it ends up being the biggest, good, right? But you know, many times, I see it on the street in my own life. To me, it takes me back to the attitude of and the way people see things. Okay. Most people start up things without even a goal of being number one in service delivery. They may wish to be maybe number one in size, right? Most of my friends, when we get down when they started a business probably, and I'm like, hey, why have you chosen to do this?
Yeah.
Right? And you know, they'll give you surprising answers. Let me tell you one interesting part of it. Today is 15th March.
Yeah.
The world's biggest companies are e-commerce businesses.
E-commerce business.
E-commerce.
Online.
Alibaba, no, yeah, like the retailers.
Yeah.
Alibaba, Amazon. Then come on to internet businesses like Google,
Facebook,
Apple. Then come to the Silicon Valley companies like Uber. No.
Tesla.
Most of these companies are technology companies.
Okay.
We are in 2019 March. When I meet people, and I have met interesting entrepreneurs across Africa. Last week, actually, I came back from South Africa this week.
Okay.
And on Wednesday morning.
I saw the pictures on Facebook.
But this is the thing. I have seen Africans across. When you ask him, hey, what are you doing? What are you building? What business are you in? I think 4 out of 5 will mention a business they started maybe a few weeks ago, or 4 months ago, or a year ago, and it is in line with the maybe e-commerce, or technology business, or developing an app, which is very good.
Yeah.
But when you go down to the majority, not all of them, and begin to understand, hey, what made this guy to think of choosing an industry which is maybe IT? They can give you all reasons that you see in my community there's a challenge of this and this. But when I personally, as Paul, go down behind the layer to find out what drove them to think e-commerce, mainly they were driven by the success stories they have seen, which are on top of the world of being number one.
Okay.
Now, that's very good inspiration.
Yeah.
And of course, I believe innovation is very good, you know. But now the point is here. Most of these very things, where we are driven by maybe somebody being number one, and we are like, hey, we are going to jump on it. You realize that the logistics which make it a success is not always very easy, and it's deep, right?
Yeah.
In 2008, 2007 and 8, when I came to Kampala, there was a very huge booming business, and I also drew a business plan for that booming industry.
Which was that?
Internet cafe. You could walk on, Saplo Kagwa Road.
Yes.
Where there are those hostels on Saplo Kagwa Road. And every shop was an internet cafe, and people were surfing on the internet, blah, blah, on the computers, doing searches, downloading, blah, email, sending, and everything. And come open your email of 500 shillings, 1,000 shillings, and you're like, wow, this is the thing to be in. And I draw also a business plan of how to buy, how maybe to one day to invest and set up an internet cafe.
Yeah.
Today, in Wandegea, where I live much of the time, where there used to be, I think, hundreds of internet cafes, I don't know any single internet cafe.
Okay.
And
what could be the cause of this kind of wave and
well, I'm not going to go deep mainly on what causes, but
sure.
Greed anyway. Not greed, but it's
I think it's a matter to do with innovation.
Okay, so innovation, but here's my point. Most people choose a business not because they have a long-term goal, but their goal is just to make money. Put money in the pocket.
Ezalero.
Kola sente zalero linga yagala kola kukozi sente atekemuko mu nsawo nga ye kimuluma. Era nateka business nga kyafa. Kati kyavala business eboominga. Naga, yes, this is the thing to go in. And the moment somebody sees that people are becoming rich fast at something, they jump on board. And their goal is not actually to build it to maybe they may think it will be around maybe for 50 years and 100 years, which is okay. But the number one reason which drove them into getting the business in the first place was mainly not to develop a company that will be around for many generations, maybe how they can maybe have a lot of residual income in the future and everything.
Yeah.
But because they have seen somebody becoming number one into something, and I would say, according to my personal understanding, because these are my personal views, I don't know whether they are true.
Okay.
But my personal views as Paul Mugumya, I personally think that it is very important to really create a lifestyle, a personality on your own, whereby you make a decision that I'm going to find an industry, all right? Maybe it is retailing, maybe it is healthcare, maybe it is
logistics,
sports, or whichever, or logistics. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out what it takes, and I become the best service provider there is to that little that little community I can actually work on. And you see, when you decide, two people start a business, one to make sure they probably have the next 100 years of their life, if they are around, a success. I mean, there is a strong business.
Yeah.
Another person is hunting for money. You know, now a person hunting for money,
Hunting for supper.
hunting for supper, hunting for money to go and maybe buy a jeep, a car, a nice car, buying a house, do a nice wedding. And the person whose goal is to build a strong legacy of wealth, they actually start on a different note. In fact, they are moving in negative directions, in the opposite directions. One is going south, another is going north. And most times somebody like, hey, how come somebody has built such a strong business and then I have not? And sometimes go back to where the goal in the start. That's why I always advise my fellow friends and myself especially, because I'm not in control of anyone, right? Okay. So I always advise myself mainly and others who can, that it is risky, in my little view, it is very risky to be a trendy businessman.
What do you mean by a trendy business?
I mean, trending. You are a businessman who invests and does business in what is trending.
Yeah.
What is trending? Because I told you in my story, between about age 20 and 25, I started about 13 different businesses which all went bankrupt. I actually went bankrupt twice.
But how do you develop the resilience to come back after 13 times?
Okay, let me tell you about that. But let me first finish this statement. Okay. That after starting many businesses, the question you can ask is, what drove me to do this and then this and leave this and do this? Well, I can say I used to, of course, you quit on two reasons. Number one, either when the going has got extremely so tough, things are tough, or there's another one which is more common even with my friends up now. Okay. When you find a juicier opportunity than the existing one. Yeah. And you know, I was a trending businessman. What's trending? Somebody will tell you, hey Paul, you are getting rotten in selling clothes. Come on. Money is in the matoke, bananas. And then you're like, are you sure? Take me through. The person takes you through. And 2 hours later, you began making connections on how to sell banana. And you know, my question is, how would I, with that kind of belief and nature, how would I build a successful business that could last for generations? Yeah. The answer is there is no way. Okay. And of course the resilience part, which talk about, I don't think it actually there was any problem with being resilient, because I had no option. Because I was jumping into things with a very high hope that I'm going to become rich. That the next thing is going to make me rich. I would even, you know, these people tell you that, they tell you that, wait a minute, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me show you where money is. And you know, sometimes they're like, wow, tell me. You're like, yeah, tell me. And somebody's like, now you start this way, I go, you buy this, you sell this, you talk to this one, go here. And
so business is not built on excitement.
Definitely not. And you know, when you talk about building trust, if a person began into business with an excitement more, definitely, like now currently, I use an example of the tech giants which you have today. Today, when you tell a young man that let's go farming, they may not get excited about joining you.
Okay.
But they may be excited when you say, hey, Jumia, I saw the news that Jumia, Africans, I think, e-commerce company,
Yes,
whichever,
yes, yes.
has gone on the stock exchange and is doing well.
Yes, yes.
I've seen some news about Jumia. So when there is Jumia going public and making these owners billionaires, and it was started maybe 4 or 5 or 7 or 10 years ago, and they're telling this guy that now we are going to do farming as a business. They're like, really? And in the process, you realize that whether you're going to build Jumia, or you're going to build a farm as a business, the starting reason and the way of seeing things, to my thinking, has got to be the same. That whatever I've got into, I'm going to find how it's going to add value to the people.
That means the way you build an agribusiness is the same way you would build, perhaps say, a tech business. Same principles.
The kind of thinking and understanding you must have is the same. That I'm going to serve a people, and I become the best in this thing I'm going to be doing. And then you will have set yourself on an automatic road to building it to last. Because you see, I want to take more time to coin this thing of personality and mentality a person harbors within them, so that they build something which is
how you're wired.
How you are wired to naturally think. I always use that word, wired, the way you are wired to naturally think. No, the point is this. When I began a couple of businesses, at one point, I started into trade. We could buy some stuff, we could import some stuff, then which was like soap, then you sell it, you resell, you sell, and all that, And it was so good because it was making us good profit. We could go back with some pocket cash, good money. Now, there comes a point I'm like, hey, how am I gonna do this when I'm maybe 70 years old, 90 years old, 100 years old? And I began to look at about 70 years ahead of me. And I began to see things differently. It simply meant to me that at that point that I had to sit down and I re-strategize on how I'm going to build this business in tail. Or if I look at whatever I know isn't in my favor, I've got to find something that's in my favor that I'm going to build from zero with a good system, so that 50 or 70 or 100 years from now, right, I will still have made an impact that will make me to really be earning, and then I'll be able even to pass it over the next generation, right? So I sat down and I scratched my head, and I began to feel depressed because I was seeing that for all the years I was actually a hunter, hunting for money. And you go back home and like, today we made 50,000, today we made 200,000. Like,
could that be the difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur?
A businessman
maybe you can help me. Could be more of be into business because they want to make a profit. But an entrepreneur solves a problem and builds systems around.
Okay, I think the word could be, in my thinking, it could be you would have to become a business entrepreneur.
A business entrepreneur.
Yes, you'll be both. Because of course, I can agree with you that there are people. I was of course just a businessman. You close a business, you get a sale, you are good to go, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it is the same thing like when somebody when they're looking at how to build a stronger business, we have two kinds of people. There are those who just want to have buyers, and those who want to have customers. Right?
Buyers and customers.
Yeah, some people, a buyer, you just want to have, you have a product, you have watches, you sell watches, you just want who you're gonna buy.
Yeah.
He buys, you make 10K of him.
End of story.
End of the story.
Yeah.
Another person just build a customer. In fact, they call it building a customer base. Now, all these things, we may not even go into details of what you might have to do. Yeah. But from the onset of the business, the moment I have put my brain, the moment I personally put my brain on how to build a company that's gonna live for many generations to come, I began to think different about everything, including customers. I began to look at everybody who doesn't buy from me as a future client or a future customer. As opposed to the past, you don't buy from me, no business again with you, not talking to you, when everything is finished, you said, no, you don't want what I'm selling, period, right? So, I would want to say this probably to my fellow African businessmen and entrepreneurs, that we have to set our priorities right, especially in the start. And so that we can shift, as we start, we are shifting from simply seeing how we can survive, and we shift on how we can really gonna build something that's gonna live for long. And in the process, we shall be building wealth, not simply making money. And those two are different.
Could that be Africa's, kind of? I think from that perspective, we can solve so many economic problems in Africa, and Uganda in particular.
I have not seen any problem which is just Ugandan. But man, I mean, you'll see it in many African societies, definitely. When you look at these days, you find young people, and even adults, they get into business. You see, I'm sorry to repeat this so much, but they get into business with an entire goal of solving some financial problem they have. You see, you hear things on the street like, hey, tunonya mwogo. No, tunonya mwogo, we are looking for food.
Toke.
Yeah, tunonya matoke. We are looking how to survive. Now, a person leaves home, going for work, with a simple mind, how to earn, and pay the bills back home. He goes home, pays the landlord, pays for fuel for his car, pays electricity and everything, and is very excited. Like, what? I'm doing it. I'm succeeding. I'm doing this. And in the process, it becomes a personality. He becomes an emergency problem solver, not a wealth builder. Now, when I grew up, I think I was about age 26 or 27, when I began to think deeply on building wealth versus having money. I stopped, and how did I know that? I stopped being motivated by people's stories of how they went out that day and maybe got a lucky day or a lucky customer and they made out of money that day. Because I began to realize that going out and you make a big kill of a customer and you make much money that day, go back home with huge pockets, it's not wealth.
Not wealth.
Not wealth.
Okay.
It is making money. You made some money good, which is also a good thing. But in the process of making money, the first thing which have to come first is building wealth. And wealth, and I realize also that wealth is defined differently. Because according to where I come from, especially here in Kampala where I stay, wealth is defined by capacity to have money to buy what you want, to buy, maybe you have a nice car, you have a nice home, you can have some money to spend, you go for holiday.
Nice wedding.
Nice wedding, you're wealthy.
Yeah.
Now, when I looked closer to other cultures which have had a much bigger success than us, especially maybe the Indians or the whites or whichever, they do not call themselves wealthy, not until their grandchildren's wealth is secure. That thrown me into deep. I have a friend of mine here in Kampala. He's an Indian guy. One time we were chatting about 2 years ago, and I was like, "Man, you are rich, you are wealthy," and I'm like, "No, the way Indians can, no," and I'm like, "Hey, why?" And when we began to talk, he showed me that he has not made enough wealth that he's very sure that his children will live on until they die. And he didn't have children yet. He was a young man of about, I think, 26 years old.
Okay.
And I was like, what a difference in thinking. Yeah. When such a person goes to do things, that's why you will see them. I have seen him, that Indian friend of mine. I think he has bucks. I mean, if a couple of billion shillings now into his assets, according to what I say, especially his businesses,
Yeah.
he will be very motivated to buy a bread company which is manufacturing bread. And he want to know more and everything, how we can do best, and then he's interested in buying maybe a nice building or a nice house for sale. And they're like, man, you don't need this. He's like,
Very nice car, perhaps.
you know,
Yeah.
but for him, from the onset, he thinks that his wealth, he is building wealth. And according to him, wealth means having enough systems of cash flow coming, so that even if his grandchildren don't have to work, he has it covered. Now, as opposed to me, Mugumya Paul, whose goal is that if I can make money, live a good life, I am wealthy. So you realize that if you are talking about building wealth trust, those two people are not going in the same direction.
Okay.
One is going the north, another one is going south. And you know, it's no brainer, it's just automatic. And I think we have a challenge.
Okay.
So according to me, I would say where we have to begin from is there. We have to begin from there. What do we define by financial success, maybe, or financial prosperity, even? Because before the definition is very clear, I don't think people will join the cause of actually building something to last. I personally have a vision for my company, Apple Logistics Limited. I'm building, according to me, I'm building the best logistics company for Africa. Maybe I will be the biggest one day, but maybe I will not be. But I'll be the best. And how do I define the best? I define the best as when people whom I serve in my industry, they look at anybody who is going to do a job in line with what I do. They only take you only if I have said no to serve them, maybe because I can't have capacity or whichever. But they feel the only person to have, or the only company to serve them is Apple Logistics Limited, right? So it's
only when they say no, only when you say no to them is when they get other alternatives.
They can come out here to you now, like, okay, let's try maybe Julius.
Okay.
No, why do I do so? As long as we do have people who believe that they need our service, right? And we are running our company very well, we shall always be in business. And I mean for hundreds of years.
Okay.
And we have seen such companies which have lived for hundreds of years because of simply that, right? And that's why you've seen that some of these, when I paid some attention to some Japanese companies and American companies, many good companies in America have never expanded even outside America, for your information.
Wow, very, very wonderful. So, Paul, our dear viewer, we're right here at Smart 24 wano Muchikuwera. Mugumya Paul atugambye nti mindset oba endowooza yo ng'omuntu ali mu business nkulu nnyo, kubanga oli muntu ayagala okukola essente eza leero oba oli muntu ayagala okubeera mu business, okuzimba business egenda okuwangaala. So basically, let's go for a short commercial break. We're going to be right back. Don't go away.